Just as everyone has a different definition for the word success, the same holds true for whether a person is rich and or wealthy. It just all depends. And there are various ways in which one can determine whether they're rich or they are wealthy. And that's what I'm going to talk about on today's episode, which is episode 281 for the podcast, Wealth Academy podcast. Wealth is more than just money. And I mentioned the subtitle of this podcast because, again, money is great. It's for resources to be able to take care of our, what we call our needs. But when we have extra money, it goes towards the wants as well. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I don't know if you've ever talked about rich. We know the word is thrown around or wealth is thrown around, but no one has really delved into it in regards to having this conversation with you. And that's what I'm doing today. And if you're ready, I'm ready. I just want you all to have your little notepad, and I'm going to go through this, what's considered rich and or wealthy. And let's find out if you happen to be in this category as well. So again, as I mentioned before, and I'm looking specifically at the United States, that defining what qualifies as rich, it really varies depending on several factors. Here's a factor: geographical location. For example, someone in, let's say, the state of North Carolina is considered rich compared to a person in New York City. In New York City, if they had $1 million, it really wouldn't be a lot as opposed to someone living in North Carolina, Mississippi, or Alabama. So geographical location plays a role as well. And then the lifestyle. You can have all the money in the world, millions, billions, and trillions, but if you spend it all, you're really poor. And so that's also an element of it. And then what are your financial goals? Financial goals, of course, they vary depending on, again, what your needs are and what your wants are. And if you don't have what I call a spigot, a tap to turn off the spending, then it doesn't matter how much money you have, you'll never be rich and or wealthy. And then there's some benchmarks and characteristics that also generally indicate wealth. And so one of the things I want to look at for you as I pull up the slide, I always have one slide, and I'm going to pull this one up, talk about it just a little bit. And here's what it's saying. And this is what's considered the psychology of wealth. So we have that being rich, and then we have wealth. So the wealthy, at least in this definition, they state to themselves that money comes to them easily. And it may very well come to them easily, especially if they have an inheritance or a very successful business, and or if someone leaves them an inheritance. And then a person believes that and their mindset is such that they deserve success and wealth. What say you? And then there's an abundance of money. That means that the person really believes that no matter what they touch or what they do, money will always come their way. And for some people, that actually happens. And then for others, it doesn't. And we'll get to that here in a minute. And then a person, their mindset is such that nothing that can stop them from success. And we see evidence of it, but we all know that everyone doesn't start at the same place. And so it varies. And then a person who is really confident and they're wealthy, they really are in control of their future, which means they have really good mastery over their money. They have money mastery, and they're able to take a little bit of money and they're able to help it to grow, because that's what money likes. Money likes growth, and money likes speed as well, meaning that the sooner you invest, perhaps the sooner that you will have a better result in terms of having gained some interest on that money, and it grows for you. And then here's on the opposite side of the poor, because we have to have some balance, correct? Money is so hard to make. I mean, many of us have heard our parents say this: money doesn't grow on trees. I contradict that, and I really take exception to that, because what is money, the physical money, made out of? Some it's coins, but then the dollars is where the big money is. And so it's made out of trees, right? And so money does grow on trees. You just have to take that position. Money comes to me easily. So, and then a poor person may consider in their mindset, I don't deserve success and wealth. And a lot of that may very well come from their parents and how money was instilled on them. If they never had conversations around the table a dinner table or breakfast table talking about money. Whereas with the rich and wealthy, they do have these conversations. And then they state and believe that 1% are holding all the money. So a very few people have all the money, but we know that's not true. There's money everywhere, every part of the world. And then the rich don't pay enough taxes, probably not in the United States. And that's why we see a lot of people that are multimillionaires or billionaires in some instances pay fewer taxes than a person who is making just an average income. And then the government is holding me back. I'm not really sure how that mindset works, but that's kind of what some people look at. So I'll take my slide down there. We'll get into it a little bit more. And one of the things that I want to talk about is when we look at the net worth, a common threshold is being considered rich is having a net worth of $1 million or more. And we can all agree with that. If we had $1 million, we'd agree with that. And so this places individuals at the top 10% of wealth holders in the US. However, for ultra wealthy, and we talked about richness and wealth, the net worth, or rather, when we look at the ultra wealthy, the benchmark is typically a net worth of 10 million or more. I know some people who have 10 million. I know some people have more than that. I met billionaires before, multimillionaires. And so it does, people that actually exist. But an example is a person with a net worth of 5 million would likely be considered wealthy in many parts of the country. And this net worth includes assets such as real estate, investments, and other holdings. So in other words, they have more than one form of income that is coming in. They have multiple forms of income. And so that also helps the holdings. And if you back out the liabilities like mortgages and other debts, then you have what you would consider the net worth. And then how about income? High income is another measure of wealth. Individuals with an annual income exceeding 500,000 or $500,000 are often considered rich, and placing them in the top 1% of earners in the United States. However, due to higher cost of living in major cities like New York or San Francisco, many people in these areas may not feel rich even with such high income. And that's because their mortgage or their apartment is so expensive, the condo is so expensive, and other living expenses. The type of lifestyle also plays a major role in that. And then you have to look at, here's an example. A household earning 400,000 a year in the Midwest, where the cost of living is lower, may enjoy a comfortable lifestyle with significant disposable income, in contrast to a similar income of 400,000 in a high cost area. It may stretch less due to housing and living expenses. So that housing and the roof over your head has a lot to do with it. And again, it goes back to that old mindset that we talked about earlier about the poor mindset, and that is a person that may not feel that they deserve success and wealth. And because they do, in many ways, go hand in hand. And so it's definitely something to give consideration to. I'm handling my slides right now. So here are some factors impacting the definition of rich: is geographical differences. The cost of living varies widely in the US. So what is considered rich in rural areas may be different than in suburban centers because of that cost of living. So an example is a state like Mississippi with an annual income of 100, someone with an annual income of 150,000 might offer a very affluent lifestyle. While in San Francisco, it may barely cover the cost of home ownership. See, again, it all depends on the geographical area and then the cost of living. And so that's factored into it. So let's look at assets beyond income. Wealth is not just defined by income, but by the accumulation of assets such as real estate holdings, which we talked about before. It could be apartments, it could be condos, it could be just a mansion or a bed and breakfast. It could be that type of holding. Then investment portfolios, stocks and bonds and retirement funds, and then business ownership. That also plays a really big role because if you have a business, it gives you a lot more leverage, a lot more latitude, and you can come into money a lot faster. For instance, a person might have a relatively modest income, but own several high value properties or a successful business, which could contribute to their being classified as wealthy. And see, again, this takes a lot of discipline and know-how. And so let's look at lifestyle and financial freedom. A person can be considered rich if they have financial independence and freedom. It means that they can live without worrying about day-to-day expenses or paycheck to paycheck debts and or job security. And often being rich is equated with the ability to make choices without financial constraints, such as traveling frequently without worrying about costs, or retiring early with financial security, donating significant amounts to charitable causes. And I like that. I like donating to organizations, nonprofit. For example, a tech entrepreneur who sold his startup for 20 million and now lives off investment income might be considered very wealthy, even though their day-to-day income might not be as high. Their financial independence and substantial assets signify wealth. And so also wealth is also a concept. It's a perspective, and helps people to understand. Again, I'll put my chart up again. I like working with my one charts. These things they make a big difference. So let's look at example of wealth levels in America. So upper middle class, net worth of $500,000 to $1 million of income, 100,000 to 200,000 annually. And the group is financially stable and likely owns their home and has investments that may still work to maintain their lifestyle. And here are affluent and rich people, net worth $1 million to 10 million, income 200 to half a million annually, and the individuals have significant investments, own property, and can't afford luxuries like vacations. Everybody likes vacations, expensive education for their children, and luxury goods. And then let's talk about the ultra wealthy. Their net worth is 10 million and above, the income $500,000 and above annually, are significant passive income from investments, stocks, real estate, etc. And the group also enjoys a high level of financial freedom and typically has diversified investments, including real estate, stocks, and perhaps business ventures as well. I'm going to take down my chart again, but I wanted you to understand the psychology of the rich and the poor. So when we look at things in totality, being rich in America is subjective, and it is highly dependent on the individual circumstances, including their income, their assets, lifestyle, and geographical locations. So a good rule of thumb is that individuals or families with net worth over $1 million has an income exceeding $500,000 annually are generally considered wealthy. However, wealth is ultimately about more than just numbers. It's about financial independence and the ability to make choices without being constrained by financial concerns. Now, I love that, and I hope that you do as well. And what I want to say in concluding here is that when we look at being rich and wealthy, we also want to consider some non-monetary factors, such as one's good health, a sound mind, body, spirit, friendships, family, good, strong community, strong country, making a difference, giving to those who are less fortunate. And so those are wealth aspects as well, which we need to factor in there. Also, for example, I had a family member who was worth over $100 million. He died at the age of 62. And I'm sure that if he had it to do all over again, he would have used that money to take care of his health, and he'd still be with us. And remember, the Egyptian kings, the young kings that passed and died away, and they were looking at when they go into the afterlife, they had sailboats and they had all manner of things. It's not going with us, people. So we have to make those decisions. What are we going to do with this money, these assets that we have? Do we going to pass that on in inheritance? Are we going to give it to a nonprofit, a university, a library, a medical center? So it's something to consider. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Go out to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, provide a 5-star rating and also a positive review. And also go out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Wealth Academy Podcast. And just go out there and provide some comments. And also to have your family, friends, and colleagues also go out there. And then listen to the podcast on the website at www.wealthacademypodcast.com. There's more to come, and I have a lot of amazing guests set up for the month of October. Be there with me when I'm doing this. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. And it's all about being rich and wealthy, everyone. Have a great day. Take care for now.